Mr. Estes, I'm going to stop you there. Mr. Smith has let me know the stream is currently down. We cannot do anything on the board as long as the stream is down on YouTube. So he'll let me know. Okay, now it's back up. We're good to go. If you don't care, just kind of recap what you said because the stream did go down while you were talking.
Okay. The Kentucky High School Athletic Association kind of put the ball in the court, so to speak, of the local boards of education to allow them to decide when we would return to play after the extended dead period that began on March 16th and lasted until, well, basically June the 1st. The last couple of weeks, the teams and their coaches have just been meeting and getting together to talk about their plan of action. If it is approved tonight, there's not been any type of any type of conditioning or anything. The only thing they were allowed to do is meet, and most of them have met with like the senior class and the junior class and the freshman class, sophomore class, just to let them know what goes on. You guys have a compilation of what a lot of 12th region athletic directors have all put together. I think Mark Miracle out of West Jessamine sent this out. Pick and choose your parts, what we want to use. I've made it specific for Lincoln County. I added some things for Lincoln County, removed some things that West Jessamine had because it didn't affect us. And I'm asking the board to approve this tonight. Diane Miller at the Lincoln County Health Department has also approved it. She says that it meets all CDC guidelines. And so we're asking for approval so that our athletes can return just to conditioning only beginning on Monday.
Thank you, Tim. Board members, any questions?
So Tim, in the safety protocol, so they can have a temperature of 100.3 and still participate, right?
Anything under, I think we said 100.4. Each coach now has their own infrared touchless thermometers. They also have, I didn't give you guys a copy of this, but I can kind of hold it up. They all have a form that's got the athlete's name down the left-hand side with temperature, and then they're going to ask them 4 questions. Have you had a cough, shortness of breath, headache, diarrhea, vomiting, and any family members been sick, or actually there's more and traveled recently? One of our coaches asked a question about HIPAA laws, if that is something that breaks the HIPAA laws. I spoke with Diane, and also I spoke with our athletic trainer, Ricky Morris. Those questions do not break any type of HIPAA laws or anything like that, so we would be good to go for that.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Rowe, you want to make a comment?
No, Tom, and I make a motion to accept as presented and get our athletics back going this summer.
That's Ricky.
Yes.
Ricky makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Win Smith will second.
Got a second there. Roll call for Win.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
All voting yes, including myself. We're going to the discussion items now. Possible child. Mr. Rowe, you want to?
Yes, with Wilderness Trace, we've used them for quite a few years. They provide services to some of our students with severe disabilities. We do know that Danville Independent Schools is no longer going to serve as their physical agent, so we were waiting to see the next steps for Wilderness Trace. They do have a physical agent. It is Bluegrass Cap. And they have sent us a draft contract with them. This contract would be for 1 year. The cost we've spent with Wilderness Trace over the years has varied anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000. If a district we were looking at, if we wanted to provide those same services by ourselves with facility costs and the staffing and other equipment we'd need, we're looking at about a $200,000 investment. At this time, I know we're not voting on it, but I would feel comfortable, if the board feels comfortable, that we definitely give Wilderness Trace a shot for another year. They've done a great job with our kids, and they have secured their physical agent, which was our biggest concern. I'll open it up. Any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions?
Again?
If we don't have,
We had to stop again. YouTube has went down again, so we'll just pause until we get more, then we'll have to discuss that again. Our Microsoft Teams is still working, but the YouTube services are for some reason down.
we just wait till they let you know.
Yeah, they'll send me a text or walk back in to let me know that.
Even though we can hear each other.
Yeah, we still gonna, it's just
we can't get it down.
yeah, it's just not being broadcast out to everybody. Technology is great when it works. I think Mr. Estes broke it.
I was getting ready to vote yes on everything anyway, so probably good we're off.
We'll be back in a minute or two, I say.
Okay, we have technology. According to Mr. Curry, James Curry, principal at Stanford Elementary School, he says the YouTube is working and he can see everybody.
So we'll go ahead.
So let's wait for technology to see
Okay.
if it's okay. Also got a text from Mr. Gobby, principal at the high school, who's saying it is the YouTube streaming. He can see it also.
If they can see it, wouldn't everybody else see it?
But we'll make sure
Okay.
because that's part of the requirements for this. Okay, we're good now to go back.
We'll go back. Now, we were discussing the possible contract with the Wilderness Trace Child Development Center. I didn't hear any questions. Do we have any questions?
Well, let me go ahead and say it again for those who may have missed out there on it. What we're talking about here is Wilderness Trace is we contract with them. Currently, their physical agent is Danville Independent Schools. Danville Independent Schools will no longer serve as their physical agent. They've switched over to Bluegrass CAP. So they have done what I guess our biggest concern was that were they going to have a physical agent and be able to provide the services. So they have done that. They have provided a draft 1-year contract, which is basically the same kind of contract we've used the last few years. They serve some of our students with the most severe needs and do a great job with that. I know we're not voting on it at this meeting tonight, but if I was asked for a recommendation, I would say we should try them for at least 1 more year to see if the services will continue and their physical agent will continue.
Any questions now?
I will look back over our March 5th meeting notes, and I think we were told it was going to cost about $180,000 possibly annually for, I guess, like salaries and all of that. And I think that at that point in time, we had 9 students, and I think the cost was $26,639. Plus, we would have to renovate classrooms, I think we were told. So I think we need to keep all of that in mind when we make that decision next week.
Any other questions or comments? We will then move on to the next item. Any comment? Okay. The next one is the preschool to Patriot Committee update. Claudia, you want to take that?
I'll be glad to. Can
Okay.
everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect.
okay.
Okay. I promise I won't take very much of your time, but a couple of months ago, the board tasked me with working on the Preschool to Patriots initiative for our district, and I want to give the board just an update on that. In your packet, you will see some charts and graphs, and I'm not going to go through all those with you today, but I want to start with our name, Pre-K to Patriots. With the help of Mr. Abbott, we selected that to encompass our Team Lincoln logo because our kids are coming in as preschoolers and we want them to be part of a team that takes them all the way through to graduating Patriots. Looking in your data, just 3 things that we put out to our stakeholders and community members. We put out a staff survey. Our staff survey, we had 104 folks who completed that staff survey. We asked them good things and areas for growth or opportunities for growth. The top 3 barriers that our staff identified were the times of service, the unsureness about how you qualify for preschool, our parents not having enough information about preschool and its qualification process, and transportation. 66% of those that responded to our survey indicated that they knew someone who would attend preschool if they had the information. Also, we had about 34% on that survey who said that they would consider sending a student to our preschool if we charged a tuition, depending upon the price of that tuition. So we had another survey that we sent out, and that was our stakeholder survey. And thanks to Mr. Smith for helping us push that out via Facebook to anyone in our community who wanted to answer those questions. We had 71 responses. 64% of those that responded indicated that they knew a 3 or 4-year-old in our district. 83% of those that responded indicated that they wanted more information about our preschool program, and we were able to gather 11 either email or phone numbers so that we could follow up with those folks. Another data finding mission that we went on is we looked at all of the households in Infinite Campus, and that is when you enroll a student, you list the other people who live in that household with you. So we were able to pull a report that gave us everyone who completed the online registration that indicated that they had a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old living in their household. We were able to identify 150 folks from that report from Infinite Campus. Now, I want to be sure that everyone understands that I'm not saying all of these children would or could qualify for preschool. We're just gathering names at this point. But we're ready to move to step 2 in that our principals, our elementary principals, have this information. And we're ready to go on a roadshow. We're ready to start going out and visiting these households. Talking to these parents, meeting these students to see if they could qualify for preschool, if they're interested, and if that is a possibility for them. Just a couple of last things and then we can move on. On our pre-registration survey that we sent out, we asked 2 questions that are pretty decent indicators of whether a child could qualify for preschool/Head Start. And that is, what is your income level and what are how many folks live in your household? We had about 70% of our folks that responded indicated that they are in the lower two income brackets. That's the $10,000 to $20,000 income bracket and the $20,000 to $30,000 income bracket, and also that they had 3 to 4 to 5 people in their household. So those are pretty decent indicators that they have a lower income level and that they are have a number of folks in their household. Just to kind of give us an idea of whether they could be eligible or not. Our next steps are our PR campaign. I hope that in your individual communities, you have seen some of our Pre-K to Patriot signs. We have some yard signs that we've distributed out to our different communities. So I hope you've seen those. We, of course, have, with Mr. Brad Smith's help, the Facebook, the opportunity to pre-register on Facebook. We have created a QR code, posted those on posters at different locations around our city, so that all a parent has to do is take a picture of that QR code. It takes them straight to the link and they can give us their information. And I mentioned earlier that we're getting ready to start our roadshow. Our elementary principals are actually putting their teams together so that we can go out and start visiting some students or potential students. I'll be glad to entertain any questions you have. I want everyone to know we're looking at another meeting date in mid-July to include our new preschool director in that, and hopefully have even better ideas from there.
Claudia, thank you very much. Any questions, comments from the board members? If not, we thank you again and we'll move on.
Okay.
Mr. Rowe, you want to talk about the school reopening plan?
Yes, and I think like Mr. Estes said a little bit earlier about how things are fluid and changing daily. For me, placing this thing on the agenda, it's come to my attention that our commissioner and governor and I guess the health department at the state level will be meeting. The statement that was released by our commissioner says he expects all schools to be in session in August. So I think what I would recommend at this point is that we don't go out there and start making a plan. I reached out to other districts. They're holding off too because things are changing on a daily basis. The ultimate goal would be able to go back on a normal calendar, the normal way we used to do things. Originally, we were told that, only 10 kids could be on a school bus. That has since changed, saying if students have on mask, now we can fill a school bus up as we normally would. And they're also telling us that we may have to take the temperature for the kids to get on the bus. Now I'm hearing that we may be able to wait till they go to school before they take the temperature. So it seems like daily we're hearing new updates with this, but the ultimate goal in my mind would be able to go back like we normally would in August and have a normal school year. So at this time, even though it says school reopening plan, we don't have a plan. I just want to explain to you, it's not that we haven't been brainstorming behind the scenes. We just haven't put anything on a paper like other districts haven't, because there's so many things that's going to change between now and probably July 1st and from July 1st to July 31st.
Any response from the board members?
And I'm looking over some of the documents from KDE. I know it's talking about like maybe kids coming on a rotation, like an AB rotation. Has there been any consideration of possibly looking at the 2 empty buildings that we have to be used maybe to social distance? And
No, I have not had any conversation about that.
Any other comments?
Oh, at this point, we have zero plan whatsoever.
No, we have a calendar that would say we'll start back in August like we normally do. So that's the plan we have as of now. The more guidance that's coming along. Now, we're being told by the Kentucky Department of Education and the health departments is these are just a guidance. These are not mandatory. So it's going to be up to us as a board somewhere along the way to make that decision of exactly what it's going to look like. But I would hate to put a plan in place knowing that probably tomorrow, we're going to have something we'll have to change with it. So as of now, there is no specific plan other than hopefully going back to school as normal.
Any other question? If not, we'll move on to the next item, the school calendar options.
Yeah, there is, other districts have been talking about this, and this has been on the, it's been allowed for quite a few years. The nickname they have for it is called the boat dock calendar. I think it was either written or supported by either a representative or a senator out of Somerset. And this was talking about allowing school to start at a later date. I think it was to help tourism probably in Somerset and help some of the students to be able to keep their summer job a little bit longer. But currently our calendars are required 1,062 hours in 170 days. But there is a stipulation that is allowed now that school districts can actually opt out of the 170 days and basically just do the 1,062 hours. What that would mean is you probably increase your daily schedule to make sure that you get the 1,062 hours in. There are other districts that are seriously considering this, especially if it is pushed back a little bit. So I just wanted to, there is a sample version of that. We'd have to tie our times into it. And of course, we don't have all the stuff that normally on that the board would require to be approved. It's just kind of a draft of what it would look like. The one that's in there, I think it's got a May 26th as the last day with an August 26th start date. During that time, you still would get your full spring break, your still fall break. You would also get your Christmas break with that. So what we're normally seeing a calendar still would be there. It's just you don't have to get the 1,070 days in for the students. You just got to get the 1,062 hours in. So I guess I just want to see what the thoughts the board have on that.
And the ending date would be pretty much what we normally have. Right?
Pretty close. I mean, you maybe look at a few days off.
Yeah. Any response?
The hours are the most important part anyways, right? I mean, it doesn't matter, you know, how many days it takes to get it, as long as the hours are there and they're at school in a time period in which they can, you know, learn at the best. I would hate to start school or class earlier in a day, maybe to get kids in there tired. I just don't see that being productive. But if we could manage it, keep the times the same, the calendar look the same, and something that's, you know, pretty structured year after year after year to where parents know what vacation time looks like and how to plan around that, for sure. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Ricky.
We still have a 6.5 hour day.
Roughly 6.5. I think the smallest instructional day is at the high school.
Any other question?
So what is the amount of instructional time that we're over on the 1,062 hours?
Currently, I don't have that in front of me. I don't have an answer for that. I can find out for you.
Any other response? If not, we'll move to the next item. Mr. Rowe, we're going to talk about the resource officer, and I believe you got 3 options, and
Yes.
you've got a recommendation.
Yes, I do. And again, we're not voting on it this night. This
Right.
is just a discussion for that. The last meeting we did table the discussion of the school resource officer option 1. We have now are the 3 options, and I'll kind of go over those. We have an option 1, we have an option 2, and an option 3. The option 1 is basically what we currently have in place. Last year, we paid $52,800 for that. To keep the same thing we have going, the same services, this year's that cost will be $59,804, which is roughly a little over $7,000 increase. Now, option 2, what this will give us includes an SRO full-time at the high school, an SRO full-time at the middle school, and an SRO to travel and cover the elementary schools 2 to 3 days per week. The cost for that would be $73,000, which is $20,200 more than we're currently paying for what we have. Option 3, which I think probably provides the best services for all of our students in our district, includes an SRO full-time at the high school, a full SRO at the middle school, and an SRO to travel and cover the elementary schools full-time, which is 5 days per week, with a total cost of $83,000, which means the price is $30,200 more than what we are currently paying. I know at the last board meeting, we decided to switch the company we're working with, the nurses, and it did provide a savings of $120,000. I guess the question the board will need to consider is, we've got the extra money from that. Is this a priority to spend some of that money to provide additional SROs and safety for our kids?
I absolutely think so. And if I may weigh in, the opportunity that we have to make our schools safer, especially in this day and time. I think it's a no-brainer, and I'm really, really excited. I think option 3 is definitely the best way to go. It seems like it's the best bang for the buck anyways, to get, as many police officers in the right place at the right time. We all know that just having a police car at the schools is going to deter a lot of things from happening. So more police cars, more active involvement with them, and it's going to be a great thing.
Totally agree with you, Ricky.
I agree with Ricky, and I think it also shows the state that we're working on those Senate Bill 1 requirements as well.
Absolutely. I agree, Bruce.
I do want the board to remind the board with the Senate Bill 1s, those are just recommendations based upon the funding. So if the state doesn't give us funding, we're not required to do that. But I think it's a great recommendation and something to strive for, because all those recommendations would make our district a much better district.
And I look also back, I think we saved about 98,000 when those 2 academic coaches were cut as well.
Yes, we had savings.
Any other comments? We'll take action on this next week. The last item is extra duty pay for the certified and classified staff.
Yes, with the ruling, and especially what's coming out with the KHSAA today, it definitely looks like where sports will be coming back in one way or another. And it looks like all school districts will be in place by September the 1st. So it's time for the board now to consider, do we go ahead now and start giving our contracts back to our coaches and those others, not just coaches, others that receive extra duty pay, that we sent a letter out saying that we weren't for sure at that time. I thought it was a great decision the board made because we weren't for sure. And it's now time to consider these, if we're going back to school and we're going to have these activities and these sports, I think it's time we consider to pay them for that.
Any comments? If not, we'll discuss that and vote on that next week as well. That ends the discussion items. We want to thank all the board members and staff for joining us. Be safe and drive careful, and the meeting is now adjourned.